This podcast is brought to you by Get Ready to Fly, the live event. Join us in the Chicagoland area on June 8th for Get Ready to Fly Live, where we're going to teach through every single chapter of the amazing book, Get Ready to Fly. We're going to help you to sober up so you can fly right. We're going to help you to check your baggage, take the right seat, fasten your seatbelts, get those tray tables up, silence your communication devices, and we're going to teach you what to do in case of a loss of cabin pressure. Don't forget to register at pamross.com for Get Ready to Fly, the live event. Hey, welcome back to the Culturalist podcast, Conversations with Pam Ross. Woo-wee! Do you like worship music? Do you like music in general? You are going to love this interview with the amazing Airri Cole. It's not Ari, it's Airri. Think about the air. Think about fresh air. Think about refreshing, cool breezes, warm breezes, whatever kind of breezes you like. You're going to love getting to know this amazing, creative young man. We talked about a little bit of Chicago gospel. We talked about this brand new project that he has right now called The Believer's Journey. If you're a believer, or even if you're not, we're all on a journey. And so get ready to get into this conversation with me and the brilliant Airri Cole. This is the Culturalist Podcast. Hi, I'm Pam Ross, the Culturalist. I love good conversations with interesting people. In this podcast, we use the art of conversation to explore what's happening in culture. Thanks for joining us. Hello, Mr. Airri.
How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. Let me tell you. That's actually, I'm very proud of that.
Okay, because some people, let's just be honest.
Because about 70% of that answer was a decision to be all right.
All right. Yeah,
I have learned, I'll be 60 this year, and I have learned. Wow. Yes, it's a blessing.
Congratulations. That's a blessing.
Thank you so much. I know. To first of all, be on the earth this long.
Yeah.
Still have joy, still love Jesus, still love people.
And look good doing it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. But if we wait until things are all right before we decide to be all right, we're going to be waiting.
Yep.
Because when the weather clear up, then something else going to happen.
Right.
Right. Jesus said, in the world, you will have tribulation. But then he said, don't even let it phase you, baby.
Don't let it
guess
do
what?
It. Yeah.
I have already overcome the world.
Yes.
I so appreciate you having this conversation with me. I will warn you ahead of time.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I warn you ahead of time, and I've been warning my guests lately that you might hear my crazy Dachshund barking in the background because he thinks that it's his job to guard my life. He saves my life every day.
We understand.
Yes.
So let him
From
bark,
the mailman, the UPS guy, the Prime guy, the other dogs, the neighbors. He has said in his mind, Granny be gone. I would be gone.
In his mind, he is the reason you are okay. You are. And we thank God for him.
Thank God for him.
Yeah.
So he's my daughter's dog. Okay. And we have adopted him here. And so in my brain, he calls me Granny. And if you ask him, where's Granny? He will run and find me. So yeah,
I'm an animal lover, so
are you okay? Good.
Thank so we're okay.
Yeah. He's been on more than one podcast where I've just had to go pick him up. So if we have to do that, we'll do that.
That's the parent.
So Airri, first of all, tell me about this name. How you get this name Airri? I love it.
We want to thank the Lord for my mother, Sonia Ferguson. She was first Cole. Now she's married. She's been married for 3 years now. So now we call her Mama Ferguson. Yes. She and I ask her this all the time because growing up, and even still today, people can say my name in the conversation, and then right in the conversation, people still say, "Yeah, so Ari," because of how it's spelled. Nobody knows Airri. Like, it's not a common name. And so I did ask her where she got it from. A friend of hers was Airri, Spearmint, but it was spelled different. So she decided to Airri. Then growing up, and I don't even think she knew what it actually meant. I'm a big fan of meanings of names, and like
me too.
Growing into
you have to be that if you're going to be a worshiper.
Yeah, exactly. And so I looked up my name in several different origins, and believe it or not, Airri is so uncommon that even the spelling of it is weird. In the Greek, it is Ares, the god of war. And just think about worship. And in Hebrew, it's lion-hearted. And so there's different names, and I think another one was like eagle something. So they all have that strength to
it. Do you find yourself in those things? Do you find yourself being a warrior and a lion-hearted, courageous guy?
And I
even
think
eagle going up above.
Yes. Whenever I get into worship, especially now, I'm confident in who I am. You know, I don't scary to the mic, and I just go for it. And people will tell you that when you experience worship with me, and it's not me, but it is God, the anointing that's on my life, that there is a fire and a wind that comes with worship, and to the point where, like, you'll see, I sweat in the moment we get into worship. And I remember one time recently we were in worship, and I saw my angel again, and I remember we were in worship, and there was a flaming sword as it was in the garden. He just began to swing this sword, and I was just like, okay. But then I heard God say, "Now push the wind of God, push the wind of God, push the fire of God." And so I remember when I was a part of we were God's House of Brotherly Love in New Life Today, our church merged. I changed the name of our youth organization to Wildfire, because I began to see this fire just spread and just and it just began to catch a hold of other people. And I said, God, whatever I do, no matter what else I do in my life, God, I'll be that worshiper. I'll be that person who when you come into the presence of God, that you feel God, not me, not the songs, like you feel God. And so there is a fire that hits you and it makes you move, but then there is a fresh wind of God, and so that's what I call the Airri, the Airri God.
It's the Airri effect.
And it's a God thing. And my mom, like I said, I don't think she knew how big it was going to be, but she knew that there was a call and a mark on my life. So she set me aside, and Airri Cole has been the name, has been what God.
Come on, Airri Cole. I love it. I love words as well. And I love to look at meanings of words. I believe that God is the ultimate strategist. And that even the things about our background or our circumstances, our born into circumstances that we would have changed, I believe that God orchestrates those things and uses those things to cause us to be game changers and even manifest our purpose in stronger ways. So, man, let me tell you, I think I said before we started recording, I admire worship leaders. I admire the courage of worship leaders, where you are what we're looking at, but it is the purpose of the worship leader that you are not what we see.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And to redirect the focus of a people in a room to create an experience. It's an amazing thing. It's a beautiful thing. So I think even before being because you're a writer and a recording artist, but even before that, you're a worshiper. Did you grow up in church?
Yes, I did. Born and raised in the pews of church.
Come on. Man, I'm not mad. My firstborn literally cut her first tooth on a church pew. She was chewing on it, chewing on the church pew, and started bleeding. And some people looked and they were like, "Oh, look, her first little tooth is coming in." I said, "This is hilarious."
In the church. If you don't have church stories like that, I feel bad for people sometimes. Like,
come on,
because I understand that there's a stigma. I understand that there are certain things that people just like, well, church did this, and we are getting to the part where people are understanding it wasn't the church, it wasn't the body, but it was a person who at the time handled who you were or whatever the situation.
And there simply were not systems and checks and
and
balances
in
and
place.
standards to ensure safety.
Yeah.
And just like any place that handles people, from an airport to a hospital, you got to have systems, checks and balances and systems. But I've seen, you know, I'm a church consultant in addition to doing a lot of other things, but I've seen what church can do when it's done right.
Yes.
So I will not throw away God's church because I've seen, and I have friends, and we've been friends for 30 years, and we met in church.
Wow. Yeah.
And they're family to me. Like these people,
Lord,
I would have not have met these people if we had not been involved in the same church. So yeah, I'm like you. I wasn't a church kid, but my kids are church kids.
And but it is more so, like, I love what you said, family, because it didn't matter how big or small my church was, even because I came from a small church, God's House of Brother Love in Bellwood, who was under the direction of Bishop Gladys Lauren, who is passed, and Bishop Pam Lawrence. And I remember them seeing these gifts in me. And if it had not been for the church, when I got into the Soul Children, when I got into my own career, when I got into traveling, I think that would have overtaken me. And so you talk about worship leaders being courageous, because now you have to get into a spot where, yes, it's your vocals, yes, it's your this and your talent, but at the end of the day, you're pointing it back to God, and you can be overtaken by people saying you're great, by people saying, you know, how awesome they thought it was. But because of my church and what they instilled in me of humility, of always honoring God in the process. Yes, you did the practice. Yes, you did the work to help, but it was God along the way who pushed the gift, who gave it to you.
Yes.
Still holding it. And so I love church. And I changed my lingo a little bit, because the church is not just four walls. And so I said, I love the body of Christ. I love the so that's why when I did this EP, I called it A Believer's Journey, not just the church's journey, not just I'm one believer of many, and this is the journey I'm taking. So,
and this is your journey.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you got in the studio and recorded it so we can share your journey.
Thank you.
And it's beautiful music.
Thank you.
And, you know, I read that you grew up here in the Chicagoland area,
in the
South Suburbs. Man, how did that affect how you saw gospel music? You know, Chicago is the mama of,
it's the, I don't know who go argue with us, but Chicago is the root of gospel music.
Come on. And so did you know, did you see any advantage to being here growing up in this area, and the exposure that you got from being in Chicago?
Yeah, I think if we step outside of just the worship part, Chicago was huge musically.
It is.
So you had blues and you had jazz, and then you had this root of gospel music, Chicago and Detroit. And so the sound is so much different. If any musician is on here, and whoever's listening, they're going to tell you, whether they're from LA, New York, and they're great. They're amazing musicians, but most of, if you ever hear of these tours with these great big artists, you're going to hear, oh, wait a second, that musician or that singer is from Chicago, because there is a sound hosted here like no other.
It really
I think it's in the water that we drink.
I think it is.
It becomes us.
You can't throw a rock without hitting somebody that has this amazing ability to drum or keys or somewhere.
And you hear the difference.
A sound, and you hear the difference. They create a sound that that's a gospel sound. Even if they're not even singing gospel music.
Yes. Jennifer Hudson.
Come on now.
Chicago. Yes.
Them runs. Come on. That's all.
You know that is us. And choir music was so big here that that's even that sound changed things. And so the Donald Lawrences and the Ricky, you cannot name gospel music and not mention Chicago.
That's very true. And you said something earlier about the Soul Children.
Yes. And Soul Children, that is my I live, breathe, and
Really? What was that like? We love them. I love them. I love seeing them. So tell me what that was like.
I got in the choir my freshman year. So I was 13, 14 in the choir. And I remember my my godmother, my auntie, they was like, because they were in the choir too.
Yeah.
So it's a family thing. And so I remember them saying that this is something that you should do. They saw the gift. And when I was younger, I was able to write, to sing, but it's different when you have to do it with other people, which enhances your gift, because now it's no longer, oh, you're just by yourself. There's a community of people who are who are like-minded and have the same aspirations and different things like that. And then you top that with a Dr. Walt Whitman, and then
shout out Walt. Hey Walt.
Right, this is my we call him founder, founder, a father figure, a motivator, and he is a lot of the reason why I'm still doing what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. He opened up opportunities. I remember I wrote something. We were in LA for the Queen Latifah show, and he asked us to give a gift back to her, and we all sitting there like, what in the world do you give Queen Latifah?
Wow. Just the fact that he would say, can y'all bring a gift? It sets a standard in your life.
Exactly. How you are supposed to be even outside of
off the stage.
It's building character. And so I remember the opportunity presented itself. I went in my room. I wrote a quick song called Change the World. And I brought it to the choir. And I said, hey, maybe we could sing this to her as a gift, or I'm not thinking anything other than, and he allowed the opportunity. It aired on TV and I remember we were in Sweden. I lived in Sweden for 2 years. I got a call from Sony Pictures, and I'm looking at the call. I said, this ain't Sony Pictures. And I'm like, I don't know if anybody playing the game. And I answered, and they said, hey, we want to say thank you for what you gave to her. She loved the song so much. We want to air it on the show. We want to do X, Y, and Z. And because of Mr. Whitman's, he didn't get jealous, or he didn't say, well, somebody's outgrown me. He saw the, and he said, hey, this is an opportunity you might want to grab. And because of him, and that was my first royalty check. And then he took me to the bank to cash it. And then entertainment lawyers. I love Mr. Whitman so much, and I appreciate him. Every time I get a chance, I'll honor him because he's done so much. But being in Soul Children taught me not just, oh, you have to have a great voice, or you have to practice. No. It was character building.
Yes.
Who are you going to be when you're not singing? Is your name to carry you in the room when you're not there? Those are the things he taught us. And then I remember just being a part of, we did the inauguration, and all of these famous people just all over the place, Ushers and Stevie Wonders, and we singing on stage, and we're freaking out in the back. We're like, oh, and Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, and we're like, oh my God, like we're here.
Yes.
And then pulled us to the side. He said, He said, you are also a celebrity. They also want you.
That's right. You're here with them.
You're here with them. And he reminded us, he said, wait a second, you never get into the room and forget who you are.
So good, sir.
You're here in the room on purpose. You're sitting at the table because you have something to offer.
Yeah.
And because of that, years later, I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you because I have something to offer. There's something that we can connect with in worship or in music or something that I have to give. And because of Soul Children, I was able to
I love that. I love it. I know Walt, I love Walt, but I never have had an opportunity to have this type of conversation with someone on the other side of their Soul Children of Chicago experience. And what he really did, to quote my own book, is he prepared you to fly.
That is, I was going to talk about your book because I saw it when I was getting ready.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm hosting a live event around it. Please pray for me. I'm believing God for people to come, because one of the amazing things I believe that what Walt did for you was he prepared your soul to soar by making sure your identity is solid, your character is solid, you know who you are, you're in the room. Once you're in the room, don't audition to be in the room. Once you're in the room, make your contribution, do what you're there to do. And I love that. I love it. But you have put in the work, sir.
Oh, yeah. Glory to God.
You're still putting in the work.
Still
What's
putting
your
in the work.
what is your creative process like? You said you just went in and you wrote a quick song. I wish I would go somewhere and try to write a quick song. Now, let me tell you, music is a part of my life. We make up
Okay.
songs around here. Music is my life. If there was ever going to be a movie about my life, it would be a musical.
It's gonna be a musical.
Because
Yeah.
we have everybody has a theme song around here.
Mhm.
My dog has a theme song. Like we just raise my children on music.
Yeah.
And I'm not a singer. Like I sing when I'm anointed,
You
but
don't have to
I'm
be.
not anointed to sing, right? So but what is your creative process that you're just gonna go and write a quick song? How?
You know what? I think, and again, I'm always going to give honor to where honor is due.
Yes.
But first, I have to always say, my mom, she saw it in me when I was a child.
Yeah.
And this is not a boastful thing to me. This is just people out. This is a testimony to people who,
Yeah.
when she saw the gift, she brought me a notepad book.
Wow,
And
that's
it had to be
beautiful.
5 or 6, and she's. But even when I was a kid, and if she was on here, she'll tell you I used to lean against the wall, and sometimes
Uh-huh.
if there was a noise or something like that, I would
Yes.
listen to the noise and
Yes.
create a song. And I remember she said she got shocked one day because I brought her a song at 5, and she was like, "This is not a kid song."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Wait a second, this it has weight to it," because when we were younger, not that it showed, not that my mother showed it a lot, but we struggled. She has
Yeah.
five kids, single
Mm-hmm.
parent, on a teacher salary. Amen.
Ooh. Yes.
So we struggled a lot in poverty. We struggled a lot in different areas. And
Mm-hmm.
so the creativeness in me, uh, uh, looking at her in situations, watching her push back her plate, or being in church.
Yeah.
And at a young age, I had to have Christ because we
Yes.
were going through so much. That was the thing that I leaned on. That the
Mm-hmm.
music was what it was. And so, and then I saw my aunts Lena and Netta. They were a group, and I called them the Mary of my life. Uh,
Okay.
and then I would look at them, and they would sing and they would do certain things. And I said, wait a second, I love this. But the problem with me was that I was so timid. I was very like,
Oh, really?
believe it or not, I was for a very long time. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Or even though I
Mm-hmm.
had the gift, I played the
Yeah.
when I was 3. I was the church drummer first.
I'm sorry,
So
did you say 3?
I was 3. I was 3. Oh, and I
Let me tell
remember.
you, this is why I'm not surprised. When I was preparing for this is what the Lord told me. Now I'm going to do research. I have my questions, all
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
But this is what the Lord told me about you. The Lord said he has never known a day without music.
Ever.
He has
Ever.
never known a day without
Mm-mm.
music. Music
As a
was
matter of
in him
when
before
I
he was
wake up
born.
sometimes, I wrote a song on our church, and we'll get to that. But I was in my sleep, and God gave me a song about rest.
Wow.
um, Wrote it, and I brought it to the pastor. She helped. We fixed it, whatever, and we released it. And it was
Yeah.
a song that the body of Christ needed to understand
Yes.
there is a season of rest. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I've never been without music, but even as a child, the process has always been, what am I feeling? What am I hearing?
Okay. Got
What
it.
um who am I inspired by in this season?
Yeah.
And when I got older, it started to be, okay, well, what's going to be a hit? And I started to down the gift, because it was just like,
Okay.
if it don't fit in this category of
Yeah.
gospel music,
Yeah.
then it's not good enough. And
Mm-hmm.
so the recently, and I'm completely honest, I just love candid conversations. Uh,
Yes.
Recently, there was a time I gave up on it. I said, you know what?
Wow. Gave
It,
up on your creative process?
and
Just like,
even in that process, when I threw it away, I was still creatively having ideas. But
I
I
know.
was like, oh, nope, 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 nope.
Yeah.
You know, it's not working. It's not on the radio. It's not da 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 da. And God told me, if you would you still do it if nobody ever hears it?
Come on.
And I had to go through that journey of, you know what, God, I still believe, regardless of
Yeah.
that, this is
Yeah.
going to bless 2, 3, 3,000.
Yep.
Then being okay with it. So the process is it changes in season, but it's always, what do I feel God wanting His people?
Yeah.
What do
What
I
do I feel
hear?
God wanting his people to hear?
Yeah.
I love it because what we hear really does affect so much.
Yes.
It affects our attitude, our spirit, our hope.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, being able to come into a worship service or even put music on. And we
Yes.
know music energizes an entire atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
It lifts you, it shifts you. Music starts whole revolutions. Come
Oh,
on,
for
Marvin Gaye, what's
sure.
going on? I
Yes.
mean, music becomes it's a theme song of the different seasons of our lives. So it makes perfect sense to me
Yeah.
that you would say, what does God want his people to hear? It sounds very, very prophetic.
Yeah. Oh, if you are not, if anybody denies that there is uh, a connection to the prophetic in worship music or music
Come
in
on.
general, because
Yeah.
our music transcends culture too. And
Yes.
I can, and let me just give an example. I was watching something. I love history, so
Yes.
I'm a history buff. I was watching this documentary of Whitney Houston, and though she was a voice, there were certain songs in that time that love songs that the
Yeah.
nation needed to hear. And
Yep.
so they brought Whitney Houston to the Super Bowl, and she sang the national anthem. The
Yes.
national anthem at the time is what our country needed to hear, and because
Yes.
of the gift she was and how she sang it, the national anthem sold records as if it was its own,
Yes.
record or album.
Wow.
And I said, God, or talking to people, I said, you cannot tell me music, it does not cross, that music does not save,
Oh,
it does not bring in.
absolutely. It
I said,
unites
it
all
unites
of it.
all of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you talk about what music does for people or what the feeling you get, we as Americans, even though there were Black Americans that were still struggling with racism at the
Yep.
time, there were
Yep.
different America together
Yes.
united based off of a song and a
It
and
was
a
a historic moment.
yes, and that's not the
Seriously,
only reason. Yeah.
yeah, my daughters and I were just talking about it, watching this past Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow somebody brought up, remember when Whitney,
Yeah.
remember? And they weren't even like watching that. But
Right.
they've seen clips of it because
Yeah.
it was so historic. And
Powerful.
one of them said, because my kids are very musical, very, very artsy.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So you would think I would get that. You think I'd be able to
But
really sing.
it's in you.
It's in there. It's in there. I believe you, man. It's in there.
Yeah, it's
So
in there.
but they've seen clips of it, and one of them said, what they love about it is she did it passionately and effortlessly.
Like, yeah.
It was absolutely beautiful. It was
Yeah.
a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
So who do you admire in gospel music or even in secular music? Are there any vocalists or songwriters that you say, yeah, they've got it?
I'm inspired by everybody, and I'm gonna be completely honest.
You're like me, like every genre of music, I
Every
think has some
genre,
gold in it.
every genre. But you know what? I'm gonna say this first. So working on this new project, I kept saying, God, I hear a different sound. Oh, and
Yeah.
it was making me nervous because it wasn't regular, like to me, what worship sounds like right now. And
Yes.
I was like, oh Jesus, I hear you telling me release this, but this
Yes.
I
Who
what
gonna
worship.
come for me and say this ain't gospel?
Yes. And so I was just like, I said, oh God, and I'm questioning it. And he said, think about the greats.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is outside who decided right now. He said, think about the greats. And I started going through the gospel
Yeah.
a lot. He said the Clark sisters, they also had the same thought in mind. Oh, wait, this is
Yes.
not
This
what
is
the
very
church is supposed to
different. Oh,
be.
yes, you're
Her,
right.
her Franklin also went through the same thing. Mary
Very,
with all the
very
people
much.
who
BB and
you
CC
would
even.
BB and CC want. Oh,
Very
don't get
much.
me started on BB and CC Wine. I can go all day with CC Winans. But he said, look at them. He said they did not get where they were being mediocre or saying, well, we're going to stay in this vein.
Right.
The sound trend, it changes. It involves the same message, but the
Yeah.
sound then changes. And he
It
said
has to change.
it has to change. And the church where he said, do you want to evolve? Are you willing to
Wow.
evolve in worship? Or are you willing to stay the same? He said, there's enough Maverick Cities, there's enough so and so's, but
Come
there
on,
is
sir.
only one Airri Cole. And he says, if
Yes.
you allow your sound to just be one sided or just one one season.
Dimension. Yeah. Or one, stuck in one
season, then you're going to always be in that season. When winter comes, you put on a coat. When summer comes, you take off the coat. He says the church has been stuck in winter for so long that we all start to sound the same. And so he told me to look at the greats. And so not only did I look at the gospel greats, I then went over to I said, what is it that is drawing people here? You know, how can we win souls here? Like, what is that? And I love, anybody knows this about me, I love pop music. I love pop music.
Do you? I like it too, because as a culturalist, pop music tells me the answer is in the name. What's popular? What are people listening to? What attitude? If I listen to this music, what kind of attitude is it going to give me? You know? And there's some attitudes I want to put on.
Exactly.
So I put on a certain song.
Yeah. You feel different putting on a certain song.
I put on a certain song. If I just really if I need to get somewhere quickly, I'm gonna listen to Tadashi talk about get out my way.
Yeah. When you're in a rush and you on the road, you put on a certain group of music.
Put on a certain song, And when you want to clean your house, or when you need to settle yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you need to push fear out of the way, there's certain songs that you put on that just help you put it. You're right. It's like putting on the new garment for the new season. And let me tell you something, Airri, what you said about the church being the tendency for the church, or the opportunity for the church to be stuck musically, it happens in every area of the church. In our aesthetic, in our messaging, in our methods, you know? And so sometimes when we should be the one showing the way and being the cutting edge to the world around us, we end up playing catch up instead of cutting edge. And it happens in our music, it happens everywhere. So I'm so happy to hear you express that mindset of don't be afraid to do something new, because God is consistently showing us new facets, new dimensions of who he is. And God always has a message for the day.
Always. I always equate worship and word together.
Together.
You know, we are in a new season when the word changes, but then the worship matches the word. And so not only are you speaking word over yourself, but you're singing it to yourself. You're listening, over yourself. So you said something, I have to cut a shout out my church, Cutting Edge, because when you said, I was like, oh, this is a perfect moment. Our pastor, our apostle, Dr. G, she says that all the time. The church has to be the cutting edge. We should be the one.
I love that name.
Yeah, that's the name of our church, is Cutting Edge. And we should be the one bringing in this regime, this sound. They should be looking to us for answers. And so
the most innovative, everything. It has to come out of the church, because we're the ones connected to the ultimate innovator.
I love that this moment of just telling who God is and how we match God, because even in my process of creating, God is the ultimate creator.
He is.
Was not him who created the heavens and the earth. Was it not him who formed man and then blew? He honors those who create. He honors those who build. And so we can't just say, oh, well, we're going to stick with the regular sound. God himself, the creator, has created us to be just like him. And so he honors us when we create and we build, and even though the message is the same, we don't want to change who God is. We don't want to change the message, but how we give the message, how we practice the message, he honors us when we find different ways to do that. Because he's creative. He's the ultimate creator.
I love it. I love it. So tell me about this new project, The Believer's Journey. Tell me about it. Like, what do you love about it? What are your favorite hits? I've been listening to it all morning.
Okay. Well, I'm sweaty, you can't see.
I really love it. And I love the fact that it is a journey. I feel like particularly coming out of COVID, a lot of believers are on a journey. And a lot of younger believers they're looking at what they believe and why. And I think that to some folks, it's a scary notion. But for me, I'm leaning into it, because I think that when we can unravel some of the stuff that's just based on tradition or American culture, I think that at the end of the day, we'll get down to who Jesus really is. If you really want to know who he really is. And how he really feels about you. So tell me about how this music reflects your personal journey as a believer?
How much time do we do we have? No.
I have to take you to dinner later.
Right.
Then you can
We'll
tell me.
talk about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
The quick story is that, like I told you, 2018, I had just did my live recording, my very first live recording, Awaken. Did really well. I mean, we traveled off of it. I mean, it did really well. It pushed my name out there so people know who I was.
Yeah.
2019, where you're a fresh new artist, so you're pushing, you're going to this side, you're doing this. 2020 comes, and I'm thinking, oh, this is the year, like we're here, and then Auntie Rona decides to come, and
put everybody on timeout.
Right, but then the serious part of it is people start to die. The sickness starts to take, and to the point where that's the only thing happening. And then on top of that, the Black Lives Matter movement happens, and all of this darkness starts to hover over the United States and over the world. And I remember thinking, dang, like just when we were going to push.
Yeah.
And so everybody stops. Nothing goes on. And as a creative, can we talk to the creatives and the worshipers? When you feel like there is a block and then you have to stop, and then there's no outlet for you to release, then you're built up with all of these things, these dreams, these hopes, all of this other stuff. And so then you crash because now it's a you thing. Now it's rejection. Now it's now you have to deal with you. And so we did that, and so then 2021 comes, and I hear God. He gives what He does with me in music. He gives me the entire album, and so I had I went to I went to my producer and manager, and I said, "Hey, God just gave me another album, huge songs," and I'm talking to them, and they're like, "Yeah, let's do it." But then in the process, and this was going to be a live recording, but then in the process of doing this. That live recording, He then gives me the Believer's Journey. Two different sounds. And I said, God, I can't put this on this album. And he said, release it as another body of work. And I was just like, I got nervous because these two sounds are totally different.
Yeah.
And he said,
and what makes you nervous about releasing two different sounds? Is it that your audience, you think it's not going to appeal to your established audience, like the new sound may not appeal to my established audience? Is that the concern?
I think the biggest part is yes. One, it didn't sound like Airri Cole that people knew from Awaken. Right. And so and that was God telling me, you are going to, if you do not do it now, you're going to allow people to put you in a box. And that's what they're going to expect every time you get on stage. But He said,
it reminds me of a phrase I say, build your dream and not your jail.
Ma'am,
because sometimes success can lock you in.
Yes, it can.
And that success can become, rather than something you produced, it becomes your very identity. And you feel like you can't be anything other than this if you're going to keep that applause going. So kudos on saying, I'm going to show a different side of me.
And allowing God to say, and can we go back to what we first talked about, allowing Him to work through my name. Air and air, it flows freely.
Yes.
There's a freedom in air and wind and breath. And so if you allow God, I allowed Him to say, wait a second, let me work in you who I really called you to be.
Yeah.
So don't just put out a project because it is the sound for that season. Be ahead. Be ahead of, if you're cutting edge, be ahead of the curve. Be willing to work on this. And so what made me do a Believer's Journey is because while working on something else, there was something else in me, and He didn't want it to be released when I was doing the live recording. He said that my people need this now. And so I worked on it. And the crazy thing is, he's a mentor from afar. I can't wait to meet him and work with him. But Todd Delaney releases, he just released the EP called The Journey. And I was like,
oh, wow. I love Todd.
That was
y'all need
that was the
together.
name of my EP.
Yes.
It was going to be called The Journey, and it was an EP. So when he released an EP called The Journey, I said,
can't do that. Yeah.
And I said, you know what? It encouraged me more than it made me feel low, because I said, this lets me know that I am on the right path, that
Yes,
I am
it
doing
does.
what I'm supposed to be doing. When another person who you admire and they're on a bigger scale, they have the same mindset. I said, thank you, God, that,
Thank you, Lord.
listen, that my ear is keen,
Yes.
and so, but then I said, well, I can't release the same title. And the moment I said it, God said, A Believer's Journey,
A
because you are
believer's
one
journey.
believer of
Yep.
many, and you have one specific journey. We're all going to the same place. We're all,
Yeah.
but we all don't get there at the same time. We
We
all don't
all
get
have
there
different
the same
places.
way.
Yes.
And then on my way, thank God for the Holy Ghost. On my way, I was able to learn. He taught me who I was, not before the journey, but
Mm-hmm.
during the journey.
During the journey.
During the
Yes.
thing, he gave strength. During the thing, he said, this is the area you struggle with the most, in insecurity.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to put all of that in this EP, and I wanted the storyline to make sense. But then he gave me the sound with R&B and pop. And
Yes, very much.
he said, now put that on there. And he said, for people who listen to music differently, this is going to be for them, because they don't want just the that's important, this sound. This is important, this sound. But what about this genre of people? What about this?
Yeah.
We're losing a whole generation of people because Airri decided that he wanted to keep the sound the same.
Exactly.
And so, not this time. Not this time. Not ever again will I ever limit myself
Come on.
to being just being an artist. He said, you're
yes.
creative.
You're a creative.
I'm a worshiper and I'm a creative. And when you put those two things together, you honor not just the worship gift that God gives, but you honor the gift of creativity that he gives. And I'm able to explain worship in different ways.
I love it. When I tell you, you've inspired me to continue to create, continue to produce, whether, because I've done some things before that I felt like were ahead of their time.
Yep.
And where I felt like, man, I did that 10 years ago. Now folks are doing, you know,
right,
feel like that. Yeah. You feel like, man, I guess I label it as being ahead of its time, but the Lord says, no, it was simply a preview. Sometimes he has to convince us of what we can really do and who we really are. And I think that as people listen to the believer's journey, what my prayer is that they're going to explore their own journey.
Yeah.
And the more you value your journey with God, the more you'll journey with him. You know, you're less likely to stall out. You're less likely to hesitate, to move forward with him and to explore and to develop yourself and get in his word, you know, and to even walk out your faith and conduct your life and your business and your relationships as a man or woman of faith. And so that's what I'm really hoping. Every time you were saying a believer's journey, I kept hearing a believer's journal. And so,
okay. Yes.
It's the musings and it's the writing of what lessons have I learned as I've journeyed with God. So I'm so thankful. You mentioned Todd Delaney. I know and love Todd very much. We used to work in the same environment. Okay. If you could collab with anybody, any gospel artist, if you could collab with anyone, who would you collab with?
Can we do like a collective?
Okay, we'll give you a collective.
I'll give you my top three.
You can do up to 3.
Yeah, I'll just go. I'll give my. Okay. Well, I'm gonna put all of my Chicago greatness in one, because I look at the Jonathan McReynolds, the Todd Delaney's, and in my city, like just reachable. And I say, God, I inspire not just to walk alongside them, but to learn from them, because they've been in it longer than I have, and so there are things I'm like, and I am a great student because I just like to sit down and like be like, okay, so listen.
But that was that humility that was put into you when you were younger.
Yeah, because
that you have that ability to say, as much success as the Lord gives me, I can learn from anybody.
You are never done learning. When you're done learning, you're
Come on. Yeah, that's right. You can go into glory.
You go into glory. And my time is not yet. So I still have things to learn. But my top would be Kirk Franklin.
Yeah.
He's one of the greatest writers. And I watched him, I studied him. And then my favorite worship leader, and everybody knows this, is Israel Houghton. I love how he cultivated praise and worship.
Yes.
On the scene, there were some things, but he took gospel and he took CC. He said, "Now we're gonna merge the two." And
Israel like gave us permission to celebrate.
Yes,
And
like
when I
you
say us,
believe.
I mean people of our culture.
Yes,
Because
yes.
we had music that helped us to hold on.
Yeah.
Because that's what we needed.
That's what we
We
need.
had
Yeah.
music that helped us to say there's a better day coming.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we needed. We are a people who triumphed and had to power through oppression and persecution.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel gave us, I think, a new,
yes.
like he opened up a window and allowed us to celebrate how far we've come. Like
that's so good. I love
you know,
how
see how much I love gospel?
because he has a song, rejoice in the Lord always, and again
I say, come on.
Like that alone was just like it's time to celebrate when you're here. Like
you're here.
That
We're
was
still
good.
here and we're loving him and we got each other and we're moving forward. You know,
yes.
He gave us permission to not always sing the struggle songs.
Yeah.
But to come in and
the
celebrate.
Struggle,
Even in the struggle.
There is a rejoice. There is joy. There is you are good.
Yes.
and then lastly, I would say Fred Hammond. He is one of
my God.
He put a funk and a soul to gospel music, and I'm just like, this
Airri, let me tell you.
So all of those people in one will accompany me. What I love.
Yes. Let me tell you how I know I'm with my people. If you can step out in the crowd and say, put your hands together. And everybody goes,
everybody knows that. Yes.
Well, my middle daughter, I remember my middle one we were putting her in a car seat and she's like 29 now. So we're putting her in a car seat, start the car, and you hear, put your hands together. Her little feet start going. And she says, that's Fred Hammond. He's our worship leader. Now, he was not at our church.
But that don't even matter.
He was everybody's worship leader because he led us into, I love his music.
Good. Yeah.
Yes. And it helped us to remember who God is. Even his Christmas music. Man, have you heard his Christmas album?
Every album there is to hear. Every album. I'm like, why is Christmas music this soulful?
Why is it this soulful? It's just, anyway, it's amazing. Airri, I almost did it.
But you caught it.
I did catch it. Airri, I have fallen for you. I'm going to be listening to your music all day.
Thank you.
Thank you for having this conversation with me about God and about worship and about music and getting to know you and your journey.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful. I really understand now how the Lord said to me, he has never known a day without music.
Yeah.
And my prayer for you is that you will never know a day without music, that the melodies of God will strengthen you, will carry you, through every valley, over every mountain. You will always have the song of the Lord in your heart and that you're going to always release it. And the thing I really love about you is you're a navigator, not just what God is doing in a season, but you're able to know what God is doing in a moment. And you take us there, that this is what he's saying to us in this moment. This is how we're rising and ebbing and flowing with him in the moment. And so I just love that about you. Tell us, what's next? Are you doing anything live? Can we show up? How can we show up for you, man?
Well, these are the next steps. So I'm taking this music and we want to do shows. We want to do live shows, live encounters. And we're going to mix some of the old music with the new music.
Yes.
So that we can put it all together, but more video footage coming out, so that's something that you can actually take with you.
Yes.
Definitely more shows, and then we've just built our website. So we're working on, we have merch and we have just different things.
Oh, that's wonderful.
This journey. I believe this is going to take us far. I'm seeing
I believe it will. I'm in strong agreement with you. And you need to go ahead and add that journal to your merch. I'm a consultant, man.
Listen, the producers in the back, I said, we're going to call her after this and we're going to
the Believer's Journal. Yes, to help us to, embrace the lessons of the past as we move forward with God in the future. So we'll put all your links. We'll make sure Latoya, our awesome producer, Dr. Latoya, will make sure that she has all your links in the show notes. I love you. I will be sharing your music with my friends. And I hope y'all listen. If you're listening and watching this podcast, download this music, follow this guy on all the socials, and let this music permeate your environment. Put on the right gear for the right atmosphere. All right. I love you. Be blessed.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Catch me on social media at PR The Builder. Visit me online at pamross.com. Catch you next time.